Mr. Casey Schatz here.
I'm Casey Schatz. I'm a Simulcam supervisor on Avatar. We're going to be joined by Glenn Deary, who's virtual production supervisor. And in short, you guys just came from this first station, so you got to see the people in the funny costumes with the dots and everything. And well, now imagine putting those same dots on the camera. You know, instead of motion capturing the people, now let's put it on the camera. This idea came about because Jim had proposed to Glenn, you know, if I can do this, if I can walk in there with this virtual camera and do all the cool things you just saw, why can't I do that with a real camera? And then we can correlate the lens and the field of view of this camera with the virtual camera in this set. So if we, do you want to go into operate mode? We'll just give you a demonstration here. We have obviously our live action foreground piece and our pilot actor, Mr. Jamie. And so you can see what's going on is that as he's moving, that's being translated immediately in real time into the motion builder environment.
I'm on the Hell's Gate tarmac. And we're going to watch this in Scorpion run in here. And what's going to happen? All right, and play back.
Bam. So everything is registered and aligned in 3D space. So right now, Glenn's relationship to the chopper is identical to if the chopper in this entire environment were really here.
Ready, and play back.
Bam.
When was the Navi recorded?
Pardon me?
When was the Navi
Yesterday.
captured?
Yeah. All right, so now, Jason, show pure green screen, and now we're going to make Glenn try to operate without the Simulcam. Okay, so go to 1 and just call playback, and then give us a count when she's going to hit the window.
Copy. Let me know when you're ready, Glenn. All right, playing back. 3, 2, 1, hit.
So Glenn might have gotten it right on that particular pass, but he had nothing to compose to. He had nothing to aim for. He had nothing scary that was coming in his face to react to. So now let's go back. Let's show the key one more time. Let's try this again. Because we've got the genuine 3D elements with the correct scale and proportions and size and everything, Glenn can now compose to the Navi that's going to run up and hit this window.
Ready, and play back.
Bam! So if you look at this middle monitor, that's non-simulcam. That's just shooting into the green. And here's what we're doing with the simulcam by putting these virtual environments in the back. And so, as is quite apparent, one of the numerous benefits are that we are reacting and composing to elements that are really there. Typically, if you just have the tennis ball and you try to mock the timing, you might get close, but once you come home from the film shoot and you've got that photograph plate and you're on the computer, After Effects, or whatever you're doing, you're pretty much slaves to that plate. Then you've got to make the animation work to that plate, because you really can't do much with the principal photography. Well, but you can with the 3D animation and stuff. But you find yourself having to mold and fit the animation into the already done live action plate. We're just trying to get it perfect on the first try by showing in real time, albeit crude, exactly what the composition and the repercussions of different camera perspectives are.
Yes, the point of this whole thing was to enable a traditional live action filmmaker, let's talk about it over here for a second, to enable a traditional live action filmmaker to manipulate in these CG environments and CG worlds, because we can't just fly a film through the Pandora, we can't just go and make this stuff up. And we can make it up in the ether, but then to actually be able to do that, normally that would fall to like an animation from Pixar or something like that, and do a version of Avatar. But this was Jim Cameron's Avatar. Jim Cameron's a live action filmmaker, and he's used to working with a certain set of tools and techniques that that have been done for close to 100 years now. And so the first thing was to try and emulate that as much as possible using those techniques. So emulating, and by that I mean the virtual camera in its original conception was, how do I get out of an animator's hands the composing tool at bare minimum? The animators are still having a lot of stuff to do, but the composition is where a lot of the story's told. The staging of how a scene comes together is put together with camera in mind. It's not just some ether where you can sort of disassociate the two, though we do, and we come back and do many takes of camera on that. Many takes of camera, after we've done the virtual side. Then by combining those elements, once we get back out onto a live action set, we wanted to be able to use that same technique because a lot of our sets on Avatar were either very high-tech with Na'vi coming into that very high-tech scene, so you've got this 8-foot-tall blue alien, invading in human relative space, or the flip side of that where you've got, human beings out in the Pandora rainforest, trying to rummage and survive out in the harsh elements. We needed to be able to show both those things. We couldn't build the entire Pandora rainforest, and we also couldn't, get the Na'vi to just walk into our live action set and work with us. So we came up with this technique to allow us to get the CG and the you've seen the kind of the result of it now. But how does it work? What are the components? What makes it go? So we're actually using the same motion capture system because we already had that whole thing built from doing whatever year of virtual reality production ahead of time. So we use the same motion capture cameras, but instead of the retroflected dots that you saw on all the people over there, we have these live action little LED emitters that actually, to the camera system, are brighter than the sun. They're emitting light at 2 microseconds exposure every 60 times a second, and it's also a not only a very narrow bandwidth of light that's being represented. There's actually bandpass filters or notch filters on all of the cameras that are looking for that 720 nanometer light. So these things are pulsing, and to the system, these motion capture systems, the reason they have to be done in these kind of sterile clinical environments typically is because they get spoofed by light. They're only responding to those lights. So any other light, any shiny objects in this volume space, it's going to confuse the system. Well, we couldn't have that. So because we're going to be on a live action set, they're going to have big 10Ks and 20Ks and big ass, stage lighting and 40 bys and all the stuff that they use to let you see. Well,
Or the sun.
the sun.
Yeah.
The sun as well. Yeah, exactly. So that darn thing that we call gas. So these things to the system are actually brighter than the sun because of the very narrow exposure, the frequency of light, and how they're pulsed. The system only sees those. So this group of markers then becomes a camera. To the system, I am a camera. And this system really is like what's coolest tape measure. So if you look around, you kind of see that's in the 3D scene. That's the camera relative to that amp suit and all that.
So if we were to show the front part of the chopper.
Okay.
So that brighter section in front is what we've got here in live action, and you can see that my relationship to it is absolutely 1-to-1. It's got to be correct. And then when we hide that part, and then let's look through.
Now when he's looking through the eyepiece. Now what you're seeing is just a really crude composite. The reason is we can't tell the difference unless it's against the green to the system. So he's just back there old school, what's that? Switcher style. He's just kind of like writing it right now. But to the scene, if you walk kind of over on the other side, Casey, where the shot's a little better, when you're looking against the green. Basic shots. There we go.
And I can see this in the eyepiece.
That's right.
Oh,
So I'm genuinely reacting when that Na'vi is running towards me.
So this segment right here is our live action. This is the green screen, which you can see a nice hard key, and then this is just kind of like switcher magic over there.
how's the actor seeing the action?
That's very good point. The actors don't. The poor actor's stuck working against this big green background. So if I'm the actor and I'm seeing the gear here and I have to work against that, I don't have anything to react to. So in that instance, what we're doing, since we're playing back her action, the elements, one of the elements is always the same, which is either the actor or the background that we're working against. So the actors, we still have to go back to tennis balls, cueing them, doing things like that. That's one of the things we're looking to improve on the next picture. Is how
Couldn't you put that monitor somewhere in her field of view?
Over there, but then your eye goes to the monitor. That's not really where you want to look. And there's been thoughts of tennis balls on really fancy, cable rigs. All kinds of stuff. Lasers are actually what I'm into right now.
Well, won't you be able to implant it directly into the
Yeah, why can't we just get it? Why don't you just put them in holographic goggles? Because then we're not.
So it's really more right now for the camera app
It's for the
and the
camera
director.
operator. That's huge. Compositionally, you got to see it. I can direct now. I
Right.
know what's happening when it's happening. I can do that like we just did with a playback,
Right.
single element here. I can also compose to a much wider or a much tighter shot. So the interesting part of the shot may not be the live action piece. A lot of times, we would start on complete green nothingness. Jim would have, Sam Worthington rolling out in his wheelchair just as he's getting into the tarmac at Hell's Gate, and he would start way up on one of the ships coming down. He wouldn't even be on Sam until the very last second of the shot. You can't do that kind of work if you're just sort of imagining
Right.
what's going to be out there. You have to have something to react to compositionally. Believe it or not, this has a bigger impact on like kind of how films will be made than even that stuff does. Because over there you're kind of reliant on this fully virtualized environment, this fully virtualized world. Very few films can afford to do that right now.
Right.
A lot of films do set extensions. A lot of films do one or two characters that are out there in the sea. So this tool is intriguing to a lot of
Right.
we just got off of film where we did a playback and we did these boxing robot movies, a very modestly budgeted visual effects film, and this was huge. We were able to make our days because we knew exactly what the robots were going to do, and we had them. The camera operator was able to get our footage, and that was us in like a big arena with 1,000 extras, and then playing back these virtual robots within that scene at the same time, and being able to map and plan all that as well.
And let's say it was an extra few bucks up front to have this system involved. Well, that's going to pay off in spades because we basically go home with the shot in the can. There's absolutely no guesswork as to what piece of the action fits this moment, and like, oh man, should the guy punch there or there? It's done. We literally just record the Simulcam camera, which by the way helps the 3D tracking, which ultimately has to be done anyway. So the camera is very, very, very close. And really, we go home knowing that it's the shots in the can, and Digital Domain or whatever big VFX vendor can get to work rendering and making it look awesome. Because this is still video game resolution. So, but that's almost the only thing that they're worried about, because all the perspective and timing and everything, we've already done it when we shot because we had this tool.
Was this developed during production, or did you guys? So was this moment like holy shit?
Oh
like,
yes.
Yeah.
There was a whole. It's funny. We did a test in 2005 where I kind of showed the very, very basic. Here's my little handy cam. Here's what we can do. Aren't we cool? And then to go actually turn that into something that was an actual live action production was really hard task. Took a lot more involvement with it.